Good afternoon and a warm welcome from the Zero Project Conference 2025. We are gathered here in Vienna at the UN facilities and we talk about inclusive employment and ICT. And I have the extreme pleasure to welcome Irene Mbari with me. Good afternoon, Irene. And the topic we're going to cover is how to make a conference accessible. The people here, we hope that we have added some interesting features to them. And I want to interview Irene, who runs a very successful conference in Nairobi each year, how she did it and what to pay attention to and what to take into consideration. Irene, let's start first with introducing yourself, about your role and about your organization, please.
Thank you so much, Wilfried. My name is Irene Mbari-Kirika, and I'm the founder and executive director of inABLE. inABLE is the one that runs the Inclusive Africa Conference. And the mission for inABLE is really to empower youth in Africa through technology. So we focus a lot on digital skills and making sure they have the right technology to thrive. And then, of course, we have the Inclusive Africa Conference. Let me get back to you first and then.
Thank you. I had the pleasure of being there last year in Nairobi and was really impressed. So what's the history of the conference? When did you do the first one and how did it develop?
Yeah. So actually the background for the conference is that it started more like something accidental. What was going on is we had this amazing program teaching blind students digital skills, but we were not getting any attention or getting any funding or getting any resources. So because of where I live and I was attending a lot of events, most of my colleagues were like, you know what, Irene, think of what you can do. And I said, what about hosting an event? Can we collaborate? And unfortunately, collaborations did not work. But I was able to work with the team in Kenya, but also my colleagues in Zero and other places to really kick off the Inclusive Africa Conference. So it really started as an idea to create attention to the digital skills programs that we have for blind students.
Thank you. So what's the planning horizon? I remember the last conference, I think, was in May this year, which will be in June. So when do you start and then when is the hot phase, so to speak?
Yeah, so actually the conference is coming up on June 3rd, 4th through the 5th in Nairobi. And it's really to bring together stakeholders from across the continent. That means government, private sector, people with disabilities to participate, to share knowledge and expertise on what we are doing with technology. As you know, technology has changed the way we do things in life. But at the same time, in Africa, it's really changing everyone's life, all the way from the very wealthy and everyone at the bottom of the pyramid. So the question is, how do we make sure that all these technologies are inclusive to persons with disabilities? That's our focus.
Accessibility features. I think you have more than one official language in your country. So let's maybe start with the spoken word. How do you do captions? How do you do language translations?
Yeah, so that's really interesting. Talking about accessibility for a conference, I have to say is very complex, but it gets done. We work on, of course, making sure we have sign language. Our biggest challenge with sign language is that when you have people from West Africa, or from South Africa or another country, sign language is very different, even if it's English. If we had a situation where we had a speaker, I think from Senegal, and she was French speaking. So we said, hey, we'll get a sign language person from Nairobi who speaks French and is able to really do great work. She's worked even on international conferences. And let me tell you, when she was sitting on the panel, she did not understand a single thing that was going on. She was only getting some words. So literally, she didn't get to participate in the session, which was not good at all, but it was a learning experience for us. And we keep saying that accessibility is really about progress. It's not about perfection. And every year we find there's something we have to do when it comes to accessibility. We use live captions. And live captions are complex because if you use AI or anybody else, it's very difficult to spell African names. I struggle myself, and I'm African, depending on where you come from. So you can imagine if you're doing live captions and someone has never spelled African names, or you're using AI, it's not going to spell the African names correctly. Or it might not, if it's AI, even the African accent sometimes does not apply. So we face a lot of challenges with accessibility, but what we do, and we also have French, we always make sure at least there's French translation and English as the main languages. But what we try to do is every year we try and get feedback on where can we improve, what did we do well, and where did we fail. And I'm telling you, there's always a list. So it's a continuous, it's about progress, as I said.
You mentioned sign language already. There is the common denominator of international sign. So what's your solution in your case?
Oh my God, I still have no idea. And this is one of the biggest challenges that we have. And thank you for asking that question, because during the tech forum, there was one innovation that's working on using AI to do sign language. And for different countries, different regions. I think it's such an amazing and innovative solution, and my hope is that it can succeed. But I also recognize there's a challenge of data, because for them to get the right data, even based on country, even in one country, Kenya alone, if someone lives in the village and someone lives in the city, the sign language is different. If you speak one tribe versus another tribe, it's different. So it's complex, but I think my hope is that that's one area I feel like AI long-term can sort of help solve the problem.
Thank you. Let's maybe briefly talk about the location. You host the conference in a hotel. What needs to be taken into consideration when choosing a venue?
Oh my God. It's interesting. I was talking to a friend who still has found 2 wonderful venues but can't settle because of accessibility. So for us, our conference is between 300 to 350 people, but space is very critical because you have people on wheelchairs, accessibility of the entire space. You can imagine sometimes you have someone who's using a white cane or has a dog or anything. So space is very important, and what we find sometimes the bathrooms are not accessible, so that becomes a problem. Sometimes you find the rooms are not accessible in a way that wheelchairs can get in. They're very narrow. So we look for so many things, and that's a very critical piece for us. And something else that we really need to look out for is does the hotel have any experience hosting accessible events? Most of the time, they don't. So that means you have to do some extra work. And some of what we do to make sure we succeed is, no matter where we host our event, we have to train the staff, the hotel staff. And we say anybody who's going to participate, including sign language interpreters, anyone, all the vendors, have to go through disability training. Because if you don't, and you have so many people with disabilities in the same place, it's very difficult. It's very easy for them to get into a problem, a simple challenge, and they don't get any help. A good example is when you have someone who's deaf or hard of hearing in a hotel room, and all they do is have a phone. When there's a problem, what are they going to do? So what we do is we work with the hotels, and they know which rooms have anyone who's deaf or hard of hearing, and we come up with a plan of how they'll keep monitoring them. We also make sure that every hotel has sign language interpreters 24/7 until the conference is over. So there's a lot of little things we look out for, and just to help improve the experience, because we want everyone to really have a great experience. But as I keep saying, it's about progress. We still make honest mistakes, yeah.
But I think this is true also for us. It's definitely a learning, and I think we also only can learn from feedback from conference attendees who have been there or have been watching online. And I think this staff training you mentioned, this was really visible, and so many helping hands around, and really in an appropriate manner. This was really very, very impressive. Let's maybe talk a little bit about streaming. I mean, we stream live here. The Fireside chats, and I think part of your conference was also streamed. So what's your experience?
So first, it's very expensive. It's expensive. But For us, it's very important because we live stream. We have 20 African countries that host watch parties during Inclusive Africa Conference, where they have between 50 to 100 people who come together to watch Inclusive Africa. So live streaming is very, very important. And most of the time we live stream day 1 and maybe day 2, and then the final day we don't live stream. Because there's also sometimes there's connection issues. There's a lot of things that come with live streaming. But when you see live streaming, there's an entire team that's behind live streaming. People think, one time someone said to me, but it's just a Zoom link, what's the problem? And I was like, oh my God, I can't even begin to explain. So I'm saying this to say that there's an entire team of very committed, very empowered people who are working 24 hours to make sure that a conference like this succeeds. So that's the same thing that we do, yeah.
I noticed also when being there, you had this fantastic entertainment acts of all sorts of. How do you do that?
So that's like the most exciting bit for my entire team as well. And this is because we have all these young people with disabilities who have amazing, amazing skills. A lot of them are creatives. They do poetry, spoken word. Some are actors, some are musicians, and everything. So what we do, we make sure that at the conference there's continuous entertainment. Why? We use this platform to help market the young people. And this is because this is the only time we have private sector or other companies present for them to see the skills that these young people have. And what happens is that after actually the conference, we've had a number of people who've gotten extra gigs and made quite a bit of money just by being at Inclusive Africa Conference. So we do feel it's our responsibility to showcase the amazing skills, in addition to entertaining everybody else so that it's not boring, you know? And also we are a very youthful conference, so there's a lot of young energy, excitement. So we try to make sure we keep the entertainment going as well. And our focus is really, the entertainment is always by young people with disabilities, yeah.
No, it's really wonderful. So what's the size of your team? How many people have the pleasure of working with you with all these services and entertainment possibilities and helping hands?
So let me say, when we started off, we were like 3 people. So very, very tough, sleepless nights. Currently, we are about 6. That's still a very, very minuscule team for the kind of work that we do, because there's a lot that's ongoing. We are 3 months away, and we're already working more than 8 hours, 10 hours, 12-hour days. So to really get it done correctly, we need a bigger team. But something that we are also changing is how we do things. We want to scale Inclusive Africa. And what that means is, instead of us starting the planning maybe 6-7 months before the conference, it's going to be an year-round planning. And part of it is because we need to plan way in advance. We need to engage our stakeholders. But we also want to create working groups and roundtables so that we can focus on different groups of people and help support businesses. So for example, financial services, that's a big problem in terms of accessibility in Africa. So we want to create like a channel for accessibility where we can work with local banks or anyone who provides mobile money services, and really to help them make their products inclusive by connecting them to the right people, giving them the right content, but also coming together to share knowledge. So for us to be able to have something like that in education, in employment, and all those different tracks, we definitely need a bigger team. And that's the only way we can be able to make Inclusive Africa the melting pot for accessibility and disability in Africa. That's our goal.
You have 20 seconds to promote this year's conference. Please go ahead.
Oh my goodness. So Inclusive Africa Conference is coming up on June 3rd through the 5th in Nairobi, Kenya. Please come and join us. If you're anywhere else, let us know. We can help you come to Kenya. And if you can't come, we do have the live stream option that you can register. Tell your friends about it and let them know that Africa is thriving and Africa is the place to be. So please join us and let's see. And remember, Africa has a population of about 1.4 billion people. If you think about 15% of that having some form of disabilities, then that means we have some work to do. And if you're using anything to do with technology, then accessibility should be at the forefront of all the design work and production of any digital products and services. So thank you so much for this chance.
Thank you, Irene. You've been watching a talk about Accessible Conference, and I had the pleasure to interview Irene Mbari-Kirika. You're watching a live stream from the Zero Project Conference 2025, and thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.